Hello and welcome to the first Posture Power class. This collection was inspired by one of my dear friends and patrons and is under this request of how do I work on getting better posture. And so today we're going to talk a little bit about why we struggle with posture, and then I'm going to create a small circuit and I'm just going to do it once, and then you're welcome to watch the video again or just put on some music and jam out. I would recommend doing, anytime you create a circuit, I just think 3 to 4 cycles is awesome, and would recommend at least doing 2. And what you're gonna need for today are some yoga blocks, and I have a matching set of kettlebells, which we're gonna want today. You could alternate if you don't have a pair of kettlebells that are the same weight. We're gonna be doing some gorilla rows. And I'm gonna have my 20-pound kettlebells for those. And then you're gonna maybe want a smaller weight for our overhead presses. Then we're gonna do some core work, and then we'll end in a restorative opening posture. So when we're talking about posture, let's break down why we struggle with posture. First of all, a lot of it is because of our culture and how much we sit. And we're just not really designed to sit so much. And it begins to weaken our cores, especially if we have, it's kind of like a chicken and the egg scenario. Sometimes because we have bad posture, it makes our posture worse, or just sitting so much starts to create bad posture, and then the bad posture just kind of stacks on top of it. And what's happening usually is we're becoming tight and hunched over and weak in our upper back muscles. So we need to strengthen our posterior chain. That's like the back side of our bodies. And we need to call into awareness and openness of our heart space and our chest, which begin to collapse in and create tension and tightness as we sit too much and get really droopy. So we're gonna be toggling between different movements that will support one of those two things. And then also the body is holistic, right? I also think personally, our feet are a big problem about our posture. And if you're new here, and you haven't taken either one of my strength and mobility courses or gone through the Slow Flow Grow program, I would really recommend that you do those things. They have their own collections as well before you dive into something nuanced like this, because I'm gonna skip over a lot of coaching I would normally do. And I'm just going to use language that I'm hoping you will understand. And if you don't, please reach out to me, or please go watch those series so that you have a better awareness of what I'm talking about when we start to dive into more complex movements like this. Outside of that, I think the other thing about posture is just change up your routine. Pay attention, bring awareness to the body when you're in the car. Can we roll the shoulders back and down and bring power from the upper back? Can we scoop ever so gently in our lower abdominal so that we can take pressure out of the low back? Can we maybe squeeze our glutes a little bit? Use our squat power instead of dumping into the low back? Can we maybe even change how we sit? Can we stand when we work? Can we get a balance ball? Can we change up what we're doing so that we can start to come at this better posture thing from the holistic lens and not super pillared off into something else? So with all that said, thank you for being here, and we're going to just dive right into it. So the first thing, we're going to set up our gorilla rows. So like I said, I have a matching pair, and let's make sure that every time we pick up our kettlebells, we're using our glutes. We're not dumping into the low back, and we're doing basically like a little squat. So we're going to take a fairly wide straddle stance. My toes are pointed out just a little bit, and holding these weights, I'm going to do a nice slow hip hinge, firing up my squat torque in my feet, so I'm nice and supported in the body, and I'm gonna keep that squat torque alive, and we're gonna bend the knees just a little bit so that our kettlebells are perfectly placed. Now, I personally don't set my kettlebell down between my rows. I like to keep it hovering so I can really feel my power, and I'm gonna alternate between the right and the left side. So let's take this view from the side. Really strong hip hinge here. We're tucked in. Slight anterior tilt in the base of the spine. We're gonna let the arms dangle. We have our squat torque turned on, so our booties are also helping us, and bend into those knees as much as possible. So this is gonna get our glutes as well and our quads, and we're gonna row. So feel free to join me for our first round. And if you only have one kettlebell and not a set, you're just going to row, switch, row, switch, row, switch, row, and switch. So let's activate our squat torque, tuck under, make sure we're protecting the low back. And when you're ready, I'm going to do 8 on each side. 4 more. 4, 3, 2, 1. Nice. All right. Go ahead and set those down. And we're going to grab our double blocks so that we can sit into a supported squat. And we're about to do an overhead press. So if you don't have kettlebells, you're doing dumbbells, that's fine too. You're just going to hold the butt of the dumbbell in your hand this way. And now we're going to work on our ability to be strong through our shoulders and our upper back while seated. So we're still using some of our squat torque. Curl those toes in, get your squat torque going. And we're going to do a little tiny clean. So we can bring the weight to the chest. I have my 20-pound kettlebell. If it feels too heavy, I'll drop to 15. And we're going to press overhead and come back in. We're gonna do a little bit of the chicken head. This is coming from a weightlifting background. We want to fully extend, drop it back in. So it's not a bend of the chin, it's a chicken head, forward and back. And it's more subtle than that, but we're gonna press through those shoulders. So let's go ahead, 8, 7, make sure we're breathing, 6, press into the feet, activate the glutes, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Beautiful work. So seated overhead press. And then we're going to move into some hands and knees core work. Too much equipment. So we're gonna untuck the toes. First of all, we're gonna fire up in the hands and press the shins and the tops of the feet into the floor. If I pushed hard enough, my knees would float up. Give those a couple goes. Press into the tops of the feet, strengthen into the extension of our ankles. And continue that pressure into the floor when we're moving into where we're moving into next. So we're gonna walk our hands together. Thumbs are now touching, and I'm gonna grip all 10 of my fingers into the floor. When I'm ready, I'm gonna lift my front arm, back leg out, and I'm gonna flex the toes or point through the toes, and I'm pressing this base leg into the floor. So I'm using that glute. We're gonna zip up, pubic bone to belly button, find our reach, and we're going to crunch, and we're going to extend. Think about keeping a flow from your pelvic floor out the crown. And 4, 3, 2, and 1. In between sides, we're going to stack our joints, curl the toes under, and hold into a bear hold. Roll those shoulders back and down, zip up. 10, 9, 8, 7, grip the fingers in, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Drop down, walk the hands together, untuck the toes, this time opposite hand and knee. So we're gonna do back leg, front arm. Nope, we already did that one. Switch sides, there she is. Back arm, front leg, point through the toes or flex and extend through the heel. Zip up, reach through, here we go. Crunch in and extend. Crunch in and extend. Nice and slow and controlled. Press that base leg into the floor. 4 more. 2, and last one. Make it count, really extend and reach. Drop down. When you're ready, stack joints, Curl toes under, hover with me, zip up. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And our last part of this 4-part circuit is a chest opener. So we're gonna have our block lengthwise on the medium side on the mat. We're going to lower ourselves down so that this block finds its way right between our shoulder blades so that our head can drop back. We're either going to bring the feet into butterfly pose, let the knees drop out wide, or we're gonna keep them flat on the ground, or you can have them extended out long in front of you. We just don't want the block to be poking us in the low back or impeding our ability to come into a full back bend. If this feels really intense, we're just gonna hang out here. I'm gonna come into a butterfly, it feels good in my hips. And breathe. This is your moment to catch your breath. We just did some fairly difficult moves. Breathe into any tension, tightness, heaviness, tension. And if you want to make it a little bit more intense, we're going to very gently pull the head up, bring the hands behind the head, interlacing the fingers behind the head, creating a basket for the head. We're going to open the elbows up really wide, and we're going to draw, kind of like pressing the head into the hands. So we're going to open up even wider. So that's kind of like, think about your elbows being magnetized towards the floor, and then you're just gonna use the pressure of your head to just open you up. Oh, it should feel really good in the chest, the shoulders, the pecs. Kind of do that push and pull, pressing the head into the hands, hands back into the head, and then relaxing, layering in bouts of intensity and relaxing. Again, you can also just sit in this position, more like a yin position, and breathe. And then the last part is we're gonna come back to a neutral spine. We're actually going to roll up, tiny crunch, roll back. And it should bring up a lot of tension in the insertion point of your psoas in that mid-back area. But just know it's gonna be good and opening up. Oof. We're just gonna do 4 of these if you're with me. Really slow, opening the elbows at the base of this movement coming up. Crunching. Lower, open elbows, last time, up, crunch, and lower, and open. I suggest coming off of the block with ease, coming into a little fetal position, and then eventually pushing yourself up. And then you are ready for another round, 2 or 3. And I'd recommend adding this into the end of a movement practice a couple times a week. You don't have to do anything crazy about for this, but again, start to pay attention to when are you slouching, what times of the day, and are there things that we could do in those circumstances to rise up in our awareness and start to invite in posture, but from a strength perspective. Can we strengthen our core, which is not only our belly, like our 6-pack and our obliques and our transverse, but it's also our shoulder complexes, our chest, across our upper back and our hips. So that's why a lot of times I'm layering in full body core work, because the body works together. And if we want, especially with something like posture to arrive, we can look at everything going on in the body. So thanks for being here. I love you. Send me questions if you have them.